Lena had been waiting for this day for months. Ever since she received her acceptance letter from Celestia Academy, the first interstellar university on Earth, she had been filled with excitement and nervous energy. It was not just any school. It was the very first place where humans and alien students studied side by side. Scientists, engineers, historians, and even artists had worked for decades to make this dream possible. Now she was one of the lucky students chosen to attend. The campus itself was a wonder. Towering silver structures stretched into the sky, glimmering in the sunlight like glass. Floating drones guided new students from one building to another, speaking in calm voices. Large screens displayed welcome messages in multiple languages, some human, some alien, some in strange glowing scripts that shimmered like liquid light. As Lena stepped out of the shuttle, she looked around in awe. There were humans everywhere, but also non-human figures moving calmly through the crowds. Some were tall and thin with long limbs, others short and round with glowing eyes. She even saw a group of beings that seemed to shimmer like heat waves, their outlines flickering in and out. Her heart raced. She had grown up hearing about aliens but never seen one up close. Now she would not only study with them, she would live among them. Lena followed the signs to the dormitory, pulling her rolling bag behind her. The dormitory was called Starlight Hall, a tall white building with wide windows and smooth glowing lights along the walls. She scanned her wristband at the entrance, and the glass doors slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the hallways were wide and polished, with moving platforms that carried students quickly to their rooms. She found her assigned room, number 317, and paused at the door. Her fingers trembled as she touched the glowing panel. With a soft chime, the door slid open. The room was larger than she expected, bright and clean, with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a wide window that looked out toward the city skyline. One bed was empty, but the other already had some belongings neatly placed. A set of strange metallic containers, a folded shimmering cloth, and a device that looked like a cube of shifting lights. Lena froze. Her roommate had already arrived. From the bathroom, she heard a low humming sound like music, but not quite. A tall figure stepped out, and Lena's breath caught in her throat. At first glance, it looked like a human wearing a strange flowing suit. The suit was silver and smooth, covering the body completely, with a hood-like mask over the head. But the way the figure moved, it was too graceful, too fluid. The figure stopped when it saw her. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, in a calm but slightly mechanical voice, it spoke. "You must be Lena, correct?" Lena blinked. Yes. That's me. Are you my roommate?" The figure nodded once. "Yes, I'm Xylan. I am honored to share this room." Lena forced a smile, trying to stay calm. She had expected a human roommate, maybe someone from another country. Instead, she was standing face to face with an alien. A real alien. "Nice to meet you, Xylan," she said carefully, setting her bag down on her bed. "I guess we'll be rooming together." Xylan tilted his head slightly as if studying her. "Yes, that is the arrangement." For a few minutes, they moved around the room in silence. Lena unpacked some of her clothes and books while Xylan adjusted his strange cube device, which projected small holographic patterns into the air. She kept stealing glances at him, curiosity bubbling inside her. Finally, she couldn't hold it in any longer. "So, where are you from?" she asked. Xylan paused. "I am from Velari Prime. It is very far from here." "Velari Prime," Lena repeated softly. The name sounded musical, like something out of a fantasy novel. "What's it like?" For a moment, Xylan didn't answer. Then he said quietly, "Beautiful. Endless oceans, floating cities, skies that change colors with the tides." Lena smiled. "That sounds amazing." Xylan inclined his head but did not elaborate further. He seemed cautious, as if choosing his words carefully. As the evening went on, Lena noticed more strange things. Xylan didn't unpack any food or snacks. Instead, he stood by the window for long periods, letting the fading sunlight wash over him. His suit seemed to glow faintly in the light. She also noticed that when he spoke, his voice sometimes shifted in tone, almost like music notes rising and falling. It was beautiful but strange. At one point, Xylan's hood slipped slightly, and Lena caught a glimpse beneath it. Her breath stopped. His skin was not like human skin. It shimmered faintly, as if tiny lights pulsed beneath the surface. His eyes were large, glowing faintly silver with no clear pupil. He quickly adjusted the hood again, but the image burned into her mind. She had just seen his real face. Silent turned toward her, noticing her shocked expression. For a moment his body stiffened. "You saw?" he said softly, almost like a whisper. Lena swallowed hard. I didn't mean to stare. You are not afraid?" he asked, tilting his head, his silver eyes locking onto hers. Lena hesitated. 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind. She should be afraid, right? This was an alien, something unknown, something she didn't fully understand. But instead of fear, she felt curiosity. No, she said finally. "I'm not afraid." Silent's expression shifted slightly, though it was hard to read. His glowing eyes softened. "Most humans fear what they do not understand," he said quietly. "But you are calm," Lena smiled a little. "Well, maybe I'm just weird." For the first time, she thought she saw something like amusement flicker across his face. A soft sound escaped him, something like a musical laugh. The tension in the room eased. That night, as Lena lay in bed, she stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. She had come to this academy expecting new experiences, but this was far beyond anything she imagined. Her roommate was an alien. A real, living alien from another world. She thought about his words. Most humans fear what they do not understand. But she didn't feel fear. She felt curiosity. She wanted to know more about him, about his world, about why he had come here. Somehow she knew this was only the beginning of something much bigger. The next morning, sunlight poured through the wide dormitory window, painting the walls in a soft golden glow. Lena stretched and sat up in bed, blinking sleepily. For a moment, she forgot everything that had happened the night before. Then she turned her head and saw Xylan standing by the window again, perfectly still, his silver hood glowing faintly in the morning light. He wasn't eating breakfast, wasn't brushing his teeth, wasn't doing anything that a normal human roommate might be doing. Instead, he stood there silently, his hands folded neatly in front of him as if he was meditating. The sunlight touched his form, and Lena thought she saw the faint shimmer of light pulsing across his skin again, just beneath the surface of his suit. She rubbed her eyes. "Do you always do that in the morning?" she asked. Xylan didn't move for a moment, then turned his head slowly toward her. "The light sustains me," he said simply. Lena tilted her head. "You mean, you don't eat breakfast?" He shook his head. "Not in the way you do. I draw energy from the spectrum of your sun. It is enough," Lena blinked. "So, you don't need food?" Xylan hesitated, as if thinking. "I do not require physical matter often. Only certain elements at certain times. But your sun is nourishing." Lena stared at him in wonder. She had heard about plants using sunlight, but an intelligent being living off light? It felt unreal. "Wow," she whispered. "That's different." Xylan studied her carefully as if waiting for a reaction. When she only smiled in amazement, his silver eyes softened again. Later that day, the academy began its orientation program. Students from all over the world and beyond gathered in the main atrium, a massive open space with tall glass walls and hovering banners. Lena walked beside Xylan, feeling small in the crowd of strange figures. She noticed that many human students stared at her roommate. Some whispered to each other, their eyes filled with nervousness or curiosity. A few even stepped aside as Xylan passed, as if they didn't want to be too close. Lena frowned. She didn't like the way they looked at him, as if he were dangerous just because he was different. One boy muttered loudly, "Creepy alien suit. Bet it's hiding something gross." Lena spun toward him. "He can hear you, you know." The boy looked embarrassed and quickly turned away. Xylan, however, seemed unfazed. "It is normal," he said quietly. "Humans are cautious." "Still," Lena muttered, "they don't have to be rude." Xylan gave her a long look, then turned his glowing eyes forward again. "You defend me," he said softly. "Of course," Lena replied. "You're my roommate." For the first time, she thought she saw something almost like a smile flicker across his face. The day was filled with introductions, speeches, and tours of the academy. Lena tried to pay attention, but her mind kept wandering back to Xylan. He carried himself with such calm grace, but she could tell he was watching everything carefully, as if recording every detail. At lunch, she sat with him at one of the long tables. She picked up a tray of food, bread, soup, fruit, and looked over to see what he had chosen. To her surprise, his tray was completely empty. "You're not eating?" she asked. "I do not require your food," he said simply. "But don't you want to try it?" Just to see. He tilted his head, considering. Then he picked up a small piece of bread from her tray. He held it carefully, studied it, then took the smallest bite possible. His glowing eyes widened slightly. Strange texture, he said softly. Dense, dry, Lena laughed. It's bread. Humans eat it all the time. He nodded slowly. It is not unpleasant, but unnecessary, she grinned. Well, at least you tried. Over the next few weeks, Lena began to notice more unusual things about her roommate. First, he almost never slept. While she curled up in bed each night, he remained by the window, standing perfectly still. Sometimes she woke up in the middle of the night and saw him glowing faintly, like a silver statue bathed in moonlight. Second, his homework looked nothing like hers. While she scribbled notes in her tablet about history and science, Xylan filled his with complex star maps and symbols she couldn't recognize. Once, when she leaned over his shoulder, she saw equations that seemed endless, strings of numbers and patterns she couldn't begin to understand. What is that? She asked curiously. Xylan paused. Navigation algorithms. For long-range travel. Travel where? He turned his head slowly, his silver eyes reflecting the light. Between stars. Lena's mouth fell open. You're studying star maps for interstellar travel? He nodded once. She whistled softly. That makes my history essay look boring. The third thing Lena noticed was his voice. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but soon she realized it was real. Whenever Xylan spoke with strong emotions, surprise, amusement, even annoyance, his voice shifted in pitch. It rose and fell like a song, with gentle notes that seemed to hum in the air. One evening, while they were both working, Lena suddenly giggled. What is amusing? Xylan asked, his head tilting. Your voice, she said honestly. When you're surprised, it sounds musical. Like you're singing. Xylan blinked as if confused. Singing? Yes, humans sing when they make music with their voices. Yours just happens naturally. He considered this for a long moment. Interesting. Among my people, sound is not art, it is communication. Perhaps you hear more than I intend, Lena smiled. Well, I like it. For a moment, silence lingered between them. Then faintly, Xylan made the musical sound again, the one she thought might be his version of laughter. As the days passed, Lena and Xylan grew more comfortable around each other. She learned that his people, the Volari, valued order and knowledge above all else. They believed that logic guided every choice, and emotions were considered distractions. Yet here he was, living with a human who constantly asked questions, laughed at small things, and acted on feelings as much as reason. One evening, Lena told him a story from her childhood. She described how she used to sit under the stars, making up stories about each one. Sometimes they were heroes, sometimes monsters, sometimes lonely travelers searching for friends. When she finished, Xylan sat very still, his glowing eyes fixed on her. You created meaning from random lights in the sky, he said slowly. She shrugged. That's what humans do. We imagine. It makes the world more interesting. He leaned closer, studying her face. My people do not imagine, we record. We calculate. We preserve. But you... He paused as if the thought itself was strange. Or you create, Lena smiled softly. I guess that's what makes us human. For a long moment, Xylan said nothing, but the glow beneath his skin pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. One afternoon, as Lena was leaving class, she found Xylan standing outside, surrounded by a small group of curious human students. They bombarded him with questions. Do you have superpowers? Can you read minds? Do you even have a heart? Lena saw the uncomfortable way he stood, silent and stiff, and quickly pushed through the crowd. Hey, she said firmly. Give him some space. He's not here for your entertainment, the students muttered, but eventually left. Xylan turned his silver gaze toward her. You intervened again. Of course, she said. They were being rude. He studied her silently, then said softly, You are unusual, she laughed. Thanks, I think. That night, as Lena lay in bed, she thought about everything she had learned about her roommate. He was strange, yes, but also fascinating. He lived off light, studied the stars, and spoke in music. Yet he also seemed curious about her in return, as if trying to understand what made humans so different. And she realized something important. This wasn't just about two roommates learning to live together. It was about two worlds colliding, logic and imagination, knowledge and creativity. Somehow she felt this was only the beginning of a much bigger story. For the first few weeks, life at Celestia Academy went smoothly. Lena attended her classes, learned about alien history, and even joined a small study group with other human students. Xylan kept mostly to himself, quietly studying star charts and completing advanced equations that nobody else seemed to understand. At first, everything felt normal, or at least as normal as it could when your roommate was a glowing alien who lived on sunlight. But soon, strange things began to happen. It started with the lights. One evening, Lena was finishing an essay on her tablet when the dorm lights flickered. At first she thought it was just a glitch, but then the glow from Xylan's side of the room pulsed in rhythm with the flicker, almost as if the power was reacting to him. "Did you see that?" Lena asked, looking up. Xylan's silver eyes shifted toward the ceiling. "Yes, the energy flow is unstable." "Unstable? You mean like the electricity?" He nodded slowly. "But not natural. Someone is interfering." Lena frowned. "Interfering? Who would do that?" Xylan didn't answer. He returned to his star map, his expression unreadable. The next day, whispers spread across the dorm. Students complained that their devices were losing power overnight. Laptops wouldn't charge, wristbands shut off suddenly, even some of the floating drones malfunctioned. "Must be a power problem," one student muttered in the hall. But another shook her head. "The academy runs on 3 backup systems. That's not possible." Lena listened quietly. She knew something was going on, and she suspected Xylan knew more than he was telling her. That evening, as they sat in their room, Lena decided to ask. "Xylan," she said softly, "what's really happening? This isn't just random, is it?" For a moment, he didn't respond. His glowing hands moved slowly across the cube device on his desk, shifting symbols and lines of light. Finally, he spoke. "They are looking for me," he said quietly. Lena blinked. "Who?" He lifted his gaze, and his silver eyes glowed faintly brighter. "A rival faction. Not from my homeworld, but from another. They do not want me here." Her stomach tightened. "Wait, you mean aliens are trying to find you? Here? At the academy?" "Yes," Xylan replied calmly. "I was sent here as an observer, to study humanity, to learn from you. But not everyone agrees with this mission. Some believe humans are dangerous. They wish to stop me from becoming involved." Lena stared at him. She felt like her mind was spinning. "Dangerous? Humans? We don't even have ships that can fly to other stars." Xylan's voice was quiet but firm. "You have something more powerful. Creativity. Imagination. You see what others do not. To them this is unpredictable and dangerous." Lena sat back on her bed, her heart racing. She wanted to argue, to laugh at the idea of humans being seen as a threat. But when she remembered the way Xylan had marveled at her stories, or how quickly she had reacted to defend him from rude classmates, she wondered if maybe he was right. "Okay," she said finally. "So what do we do?" Xylan tilted his head. "We remain cautious. They will not attack openly. Not yet, but they will test. They will probe. And we must be ready." A few days later, Lena got her first taste of what probe meant. It was late at night, and she was lying in bed trying to fall asleep. Xylan, as usual, stood silently by the window. Suddenly, she heard a faint buzzing sound like a wasp trapped in the room. She sat up, frowning. "Do you hear that?" Xylan turned sharply. His silver eyes glowed brighter. "Stay down," he said quickly. Before Lena could ask why, the window shimmered and a small black drone phased through the glass as if it wasn't there. It was sleek, with sharp angles and a glowing red eye. It hovered in the air, scanning the room with a beam of light. Lena gasped and grabbed her blanket instinctively. "What is that thing?" "A hunter," Xylan said calmly, though his body tensed. "They have found me." The drone's red eye locked on him, and it let out a sharp electronic screech. Xylan moved faster than Lena had ever seen. His hand shot out, and a flash of silver energy rippled from his palm. The drone dodged, zipping to the side, then fired a beam of red light at him. The room filled with flashes of color as the two clashed. Xylan with bursts of silver energy, the drone with sharp red beams. Lena crouched behind her bed, her heart pounding. But then she noticed something. The drone's shots were aimed only at Xylan, not at her. She bit her lip. She couldn't just sit there and do nothing. Her eyes darted to her desk where her tablet was charging. Quickly, she unplugged the cord and yanked it free. Then, taking a deep breath, she leapt forward and threw the charging cord toward the drone's spinning blades. The cord tangled in its propellers, making it jerk in the air. "Xylan, now!" she shouted. Xylan extended both hands and a brilliant wave of silver light burst forth. The drone froze, shuddered violently, then exploded into sparks. For a moment the room was silent except for Lena's heavy breathing. Then Xylan turned toward her. His silver eyes glowed with astonishment. "You acted without calculation," he said softly. "Without certainty, and yet—" "It worked," Lena shrugged, still trembling. "I just did what I could." Xylan stared at her for a long moment. Then, in a voice filled with quiet awe, he whispered, "Unpredictable. That is your strength." The next morning, the academy staff investigated the blast marks in the room. Officially, they claimed it was a malfunctioning cleaning drone. Students whispered rumors in the halls, but no one dared ask too many questions. Lena and Xylan knew the truth, but they didn't say a word. That night, as they sat by the window together, Lena finally asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "Xylan, why are you really here? I mean, not just for school. What's the real reason?" For a long time, he didn't answer. His glowing eyes stared out at the stars. Finally, he said quietly, "Because your kind is different. My people wish to understand you. Some wish to guide you. Others wish to stop you, but I wish to see for myself." Lena folded her arms. "And what do you see?" Xylan turned his gaze to her. His silver eyes glowed softly, like starlight reflected in water. "I see a species that does not fear the unknown," he said. "I see someone who would throw herself at danger, not because of logic, but because of instinct. I see possibility." Lena felt her cheeks warm. She looked away, unsure what to say. For the first time, she realized something important. This wasn't just about Xylan learning about humanity. It was about humanity proving itself to the galaxy, and somehow she had become part of that proof. She didn't know what would come next. But she knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning of the trouble in the dorm. The academy tried to act as if nothing unusual had happened after the strange drone attack. Staff members repaired the broken window, cleaned the scorch marks, and insisted it was just a technical malfunction. But Lena knew better. So did Xylan. Even though the room looked normal again, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She noticed little details. The faint hum of energy outside the window at night. The way shadows seemed to move in the halls. The flicker of red lights in the distance. It was clear the rival faction hadn't given up. And if they hadn't given up, that meant another attack was coming. One evening, Lena returned from class to find Xylan standing in the middle of the room, his glowing hands tracing symbols in the air. Silver lines floated like holograms around him, forming circles and patterns that shifted and spun. "What are you doing?" she asked carefully. "Preparing," Xylan said, his voice calm but serious. "Preparing for what?" He looked at her with his silver eyes. "They will return. Stronger than before. I must be ready." Lena set her bag down and crossed her arms. "And what about me? You think I should just sit here and watch while you fight them?" Xylan hesitated. "You are human. You are fragile." Lena frowned. "Fragile? Maybe, but last time if I hadn't acted, that drone might have captured you, or worse. I may not have powers like you, but I can help." Xylan studied her for a long moment. His glowing eyes softened. "You acted without hesitation. You risked yourself. That is something my people do not understand." "It is a human," Lena smiled faintly. "Then let me be human, and let me help." Days passed, but the tension in the air grew thicker. Then, late one night, the attack came. Lena was woken by a strange vibration in the floor. She sat up in bed, her heart racing as the windows of the dorm glowed faint red. "Xylan," she whispered. He was already awake, standing by the window, his silver eyes blazing. "They are here." A loud crash shook the building. The lights flickered, then dimmed. The security systems of the academy shut down one by one, their hum fading into silence. Then the walls rippled like water, and 3 hunter drones phased through. These were larger than the one before, each with multiple glowing eyes and sharp spinning arms. Their red beams swept across the room, locking on Xylan. "Target acquired." A metallic voice buzzed from the drones. Lena froze. She wanted to scream, but Xylan raised his hand. "Stay calm." The drones fired beams of red energy and Xylan leapt aside, his silver light clashing against theirs. Bursts of light filled the room, shaking the walls. Lena ducked behind her desk, her mind racing. She remembered what Xylan had said. Her strength was unpredictability. She didn't have weapons, but she had creativity. Her eyes darted to the sprinkler system above. If she could trigger it, maybe it would confuse the drones. Quickly, she grabbed her tablet and opened the building's emergency system app. She hacked into the controls with shaking hands, overriding the fire alarm. The sprinklers burst to life, spraying water everywhere. The drones jerked, their circuits sparking as the water hit them. Their red beams flickered. "Xylan now," Lena shouted. He unleashed a powerful wave of silver energy, blasting one drone into pieces. The second spun wildly, firing beams in random directions. The third zoomed toward Lena, its blades spinning. Her heart stopped. She had no time to think. She grabbed the chair by her desk and hurled it at the drone. The chair hit its sensors, making it stumble mid-air. In that instant, Xylan struck it with another burst of light, destroying it. The last drone tried to retreat, but Lena acted fast. She threw her wet blanket over it, blocking its sensors. The drone screeched and thrashed. Xylan raised his hands, his silver glow burning brighter than ever, and released a final wave of energy. The drone exploded in sparks. The blast shaking the room, silence fell. Lena stood frozen, her chest heaving, water dripping from her hair. The dorm was soaked, the walls blackened with scorch marks. Xylan turned to her. His silver eyes glowed with something she had never seen before. Awe. "You improvised," he said softly. "You adapted. You used what you had. No calculation could predict that." Lena laughed breathlessly. "Well, that's humans for you. We make things up as we go." Xylan stared at her. "This is why they fear you. Because you are not bound by logic. You are bound by possibility." The academy could no longer hide the truth. Too many students had seen the red lights, heard the blasts, and felt the tremors. The official story was that a malfunctioning training experiment had caused the damage, but rumors spread quickly. Everyone whispered about attacks, about aliens, about secrets. Lena and Xylan kept their silence, but their bond grew stronger. One evening, they sat together by the dorm window, watching the stars. Lena leaned back against the wall, her hair still damp from a shower, while Xylan stood tall and still, his glowing form reflecting the starlight. "You know," Lena said softly, "you keep saying humans are unpredictable, but isn't that a good thing?" Xylan tilted his head. "Good, and dangerous. The galaxy fears what it cannot control. My people calculate every outcome. We seek perfection and order, but you leap into the unknown without hesitation. That is something we cannot understand." Lena smiled faintly. "Maybe that's what makes us special." For a long moment, Xylan was silent. Then he said softly, "When I was sent here, I expected fear. I expected chaos. Instead, I found you." Lena's heart skipped. She looked at him, but his expression was calm as ever, his glowing eyes fixed on the stars. "You are proof," he continued. "Proof that humanity is not what they think. Proof that humans are different." The next few days, the academy increased security. Patrol drones flew through the halls, and students were warned to stay indoors at night. But Lena knew it wouldn't stop the rival faction. One afternoon, as she walked to class, she overheard two alien students whispering in the corner. "They say the Valari observer has bonded with a human." One murmured. "It's dangerous," the other replied. "If humans learn too quickly, if they grow too bold, the balance will change." Lena felt a chill. She realized it wasn't just Xylan who was being tested. It was all of humanity. That evening, she confronted him. "Xylan, what happens if they decide humans really are dangerous?" He looked at her quietly. "Then they will try to stop you. Before you rise." Lena swallowed hard. The thought of the galaxy turning against her people was terrifying. But when she looked at Xylan, she felt a spark of hope. "Then we'll just have to prove them wrong," she said firmly. His silver eyes glowed softly. "You already have. Every time you act without fear, you prove them wrong." The bond between them deepened. Lena began teaching Xylan small things about humanity. Jokes, stories, music. At first, he didn't understand why humans laughed at nonsense or cried at fiction. But slowly, he began to see. One evening, Lena played him a simple human song on her tablet. The melody was soft and emotional. Xylan stood perfectly still, his glowing eyes reflecting the screen. "This sound," he whispered. is not logical, and yet it moves something inside. That's music, Lena said with a smile. It's not about logic. It's about feeling. Xylan was silent for a long time. Then faintly his own voice shifted into soft musical tones harmonizing with the song. Lena froze, listening. His alien music blended with the human melody, creating something new, something beautiful. She smiled. See? That's what happens when humans and aliens work together. Xylan's glowing eyes softened. Perhaps that is the future. But deep down, Lena knew it wasn't over. The rival faction had already attacked twice. They would not stop, and next time she feared it wouldn't just be drones. For now, though, she sat by the window with Xylan, watching the stars. She felt a strange mix of fear and hope. Maybe humans were fragile. Maybe they were unpredictable. But they were also capable of something no calculation could predict: imagination. And that, she realized, was their greatest strength. The academy felt quiet after the last attack, but Lena knew the silence was only temporary. It was the silence before another storm. Xylan stayed calm on the outside, but she could sense his unease. His silver eyes often drifted to the windows as if he was listening to something beyond human hearing. Lena tried to live normally. She went to classes, sat in the cafeteria, and talked to friends. But her thoughts always circled back to one truth. They were targets. Someone in the galaxy didn't want Xylan and her to grow close. Someone feared what humans could become. And she noticed. She noticed the way teachers avoided questions about the attacks. She noticed how certain alien students stared at her longer than before, whispering when she passed. She noticed the drones that hovered near the dorm roof at night, watching. Every little sign told her the same thing: something bigger was coming. One evening, Lena returned to the dorm to find Xylan sitting perfectly still on his bed. His glowing hands were folded and his silver eyes were dimmer than usual. "What's wrong?" she asked. "They are no longer testing," Xylan said quietly. "They are preparing." Her stomach tightened. "Preparing for what?" "For war," he said simply. The word made her breath catch. "War? Against who?" "Against you. Against humans. They think humanity is dangerous. They think you must be stopped before you rise too quickly." Lena froze. It was one thing to fight drones in a dorm room, but the thought of the entire galaxy seeing humans as a threat was overwhelming. "But that's not fair," she said. "We haven't done anything wrong." Xylan looked at her gently. Sometimes fear does not wait for proof. Sometimes fear acts first. Lena sat down beside him. "So what do we do?" He turned his glowing eyes toward her. "We show them another way. We show them that humans are not what they think." Days later, the academy announced a grand assembly. All students and staff were ordered to attend. The gathering would take place in the central hall, a vast chamber with glass walls that revealed the stars outside. Lena felt her heart pound when she heard the news. She knew this was it. Something important was going to happen. The night of the assembly, she walked with Xylan into the hall. Hundreds of alien students filled the seats, their bodies glowing, shimmering, or pulsing with strange colors. Teachers stood along the edges, their faces grave. At the center stood a group of tall alien figures Lena had never seen before. They were dressed in dark robes, their glowing eyes cold and sharp. Xylan's face grew tense. "The Council," he whispered. Lena's throat went dry. The Council. The very rulers who had judged humanity from afar. When the assembly began, the leader of the council stepped forward. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Students, teachers, be silent and listen. We are here to discuss a danger that grows inside this academy. A danger called humanity." Gasps filled the hall. Lena felt every alien eye turn toward her. Her heart pounded, but she kept her chin up. The leader's gaze swept over the crowd. Humans are reckless. They act without logic. They threaten balance. Already we see one human who interferes, who aids an outsider. His cold eyes fixed on Lena. This cannot continue. Whispers spread like fire across the hall. Some aliens looked afraid. Some looked curious. A few looked angry. Lena clenched her fists. She wanted to shout, to defend herself, but her voice stuck in her throat. Then Xylan rose. His silver glow filled the chamber. "Enough," the whispers died. All eyes turned to him. Xylan's voice rang clear. "You fear humanity because they are different. You fear them because they are not bound by your logic. But I have lived among them. I have seen them. And I tell you this, your fear blinds you to the truth. The leader of the council narrowed his eyes. And what truth is that? That humans are more than you think, Xylan said. His glowing hands pointed toward Lena. This one risked herself to save me. This one fought without power, without calculation, yet stood against your hunters. She acted not because of logic, but because of courage. She is proof of what humans are. The hall went silent. Lena felt every eye burning into her. She wanted to hide, but she forced herself to stand tall. The leader sneered. One act of recklessness does not prove worth. It proves danger. Lena couldn't stay quiet anymore. Her voice shook at first, but then grew stronger. You're wrong, she said. Yes, humans are reckless. Yes, we make mistakes. But that's not weakness. That's how we grow. That's how we discover. That's how we survive. Her voice echoed through the chamber. You fear us because we don't follow your rules. But maybe your rules are what's holding you back. You measure everything with numbers. We measure with hope, with imagination. And maybe that's what the galaxy needs. A ripple of whispers swept through the hall. Some aliens nodded slowly. Others frowned. But no one laughed. No one dismissed her. The leader's eyes darkened. Imagination cannot win wars. Hope cannot stop destruction. Lena took a deep breath. Maybe not. But imagination can build things you never dreamed of. Hope can make enemies into friends. That's why you're afraid of us. Because deep down you know we can change everything. The hall shook with voices, arguments breaking out among the students. Some shouted that she was dangerous. Others shouted that she was right. The council leader raised his hand and the noise fell. Enough. If humanity wishes to prove itself, then let it be tested here, now. Lena's chest tightened. Tested? How? The leader's cold eyes glowed. Face the trial. If you succeed, humanity may live. If you fail, then humanity will be forbidden to rise. The trial was held the next morning. The entire academy gathered at the training arena, a massive dome filled with shifting platforms, obstacles, and energy fields. Lena stood at the center with Xylan by her side. Her hands trembled, but she kept her head high. You don't have to do this, Xylan whispered. Yes, I do, she said firmly. Not just for me, for all of us. The trial began. 3 massive constructs appeared, each taller than the arena walls. They glowed with red energy, their forms shifting between solid and liquid, metal and light. They moved like living storms. The crowd gasped. Lena's heart nearly stopped. But then she looked at Xylan. He gave her a small nod. And she remembered she didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be human. The constructs attacked. Xylan unleashed silver light, blocking the first strike. Lena ran across the shifting platforms, dodging blasts of energy. She used her speed, her unpredictability, throwing objects, tricking the machines into hitting each other. One construct swung at her, but she ducked, rolled, and grabbed a broken shard of metal. She jammed it into a glowing joint, making the construct stumble. The crowd gasped again. They had never seen such improvisation. With Lena's distraction, Xylan struck, blasting the first construct into pieces. The second construct charged. Lena led it toward an unstable platform, then jumped aside at the last second. The platform collapsed, dragging the construct down with it. The arena shook. The crowd roared. The final construct loomed, more powerful than the others. It fired beams of energy everywhere, shaking the dome. Lena and Xylan fought side by side, but it was too strong. Lena's chest burned. Her legs ached. She knew she couldn't win with strength. She needed something else, something unexpected. She looked up and noticed the energy field above. It pulsed unstable. An idea flashed in her mind. Xylan, she shouted. Hit the ceiling! He looked at her in shock. The ceiling? Trust me, she cried. Without hesitation, Xylan unleashed his silver light upward. The energy field above cracked and rained down sparks. The final construct raised its arms, confused by the storm. That was the moment. Lena ran forward, leapt onto the construct's arm, and climbed up with all her strength. She reached the glowing core on its chest, grabbed a loose cable, and yanked it free. The construct screamed in static and exploded in light. The crowd erupted in shock. Lena fell, but Xylan caught her in his glowing arms before she hit the ground. The arena went silent. The constructs were gone. The trial was over. The council stood in silence. Finally, the leader spoke. His voice was cold but quieter than before. You acted without logic. You risked without calculation, and yet, you won. He looked at Lena with sharp eyes. Perhaps there is more to humanity than we believed. Xylan's silver eyes glowed. She proved it. They all will. The leader hesitated. Then he turned away. The council will watch. But for now, humanity may rise. That night, Lena and Xylan sat by the dorm window once more, watching the stars. You did it, Xylan said softly. No, Lena said with a small smile. We did it together. Xylan was silent for a long moment. Then finally he said, When I was sent here, I thought I would find fear. But when I noticed you, I could not believe my eyes. Humans are not what the galaxy thinks. You are more. Lena leaned back, her heart warm. Maybe one day the whole galaxy will notice too. Together, they watched the stars, two roommates, one human and one alien bound by courage, imagination, and hope. And for the first time, Lena believed that humanity's story among the stars was only just beginning.